Hi, all. Thank you for continuing to tune into the Mile 40 podcast. I'd like to give an important disclaimer before we head into this next episode. This episode contains discussions of assault and domestic violence. On this episode, we cover the story of a survivor of domestic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
This isn't my life and I want to be free. I just kept thinking in my mind, I want to be free. Like this doesn't feel free. I feel like a shell of myself. Like I'm always watching what I say, how I say it, who I say it to, their reaction to me, because any little thing he's going to use against me and it's going to be a fight.
As you were going through all this, I want to ask, did you like him or did you like the idea of him?
That's a great question. In the moment, I thought I liked him. In hindsight, looking back, I just wanted to be with someone. I wanted to be in a relationship that badly.
And I specifically said like, not love. Did you love him?
Right. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. And it's interesting because we say I love you. And when I say I love you to my mom and my sister, like I love them, This person, it always felt hollow, it never felt like love, but not like, oh my God, I love you so much. It just always felt something was there for sure.
I think the thing that's throwing me off about him and the examples that you've given so far really is that situation where he accused you of cheating when clearly there was no substance behind it. And so I kind of want to dig into his, he's not here obviously, but I kind of want to dig into whatever you can say about his psyche a little bit, because do you think like the way that I'm hearing it from you was there was some malice behind there was some intent with this, and maybe we're going to get there because I want to clarify the fine line between where there's a malicious intent and where there's just someone who's just not stable. Right now?
I believe it's both. It's always, for me, it always goes into intention, right? And how I know this is how we ended. And when you read the book and you get to, March 3rd, 2023, that's how you know it's malice intention the entire time. And then when you learn of their history with other people, again, that's how you know it's malice and intention every time. So if someone does something one time and they learn their lesson and they have remorse and they're sorry and their behavior does change and it never happens again, that's a mistake, right? Malice is when there's patterns involved. And intention also follows into that. If you're intentionally going out and you're intentionally seeking women or people who have trauma and are not self-aware enough to understand and know themselves, and you specifically seek out people who don't have dads in their lives or have a domestic violence background, which I do not have the DV at that point. Now I do, thanks to him. And all of this is factual learning that I've learned through my investigation of this person. So for me, that's what makes it malice and like a bad person. And 100% there's mental issues involved, because who goes around life doing that?
Yeah.
Like we all have trauma, some with a capital T, some with a little t, but the majority of us do not go around intentionally hurting people and intentionally lying and doing bad things.
No, you're absolutely spot on. Man, there's so much to this. We could talk for a long time. And you said it yourself, you could talk for days. But let me ask you, did you ever reconnect with the girl at at CrossFit that he was dating?
I did very briefly. Because when the incident happened, I reached out and I shared photos and I said, this is what happened to me. Be careful, because I learned throughout this process, he never actually ever stopped talking to any girls. Because I would see text messages of them even going back and forth, in real time. I used to have screenshots. I've since deleted them. I'm like, I don't need receipts, because I would need it to ground myself in moments where I'm like, am I crazy? I would go to my hidden album and like look at all the screenshots. And meanwhile, I'm crazy for taking them, but like it's happening. Like I was going to Aruba with my family, my mom and my sisters in July of 2021, and he had left his iPad at home, and I hear all this dinging and I look, and this person's chatting, hey, how are you? And then, asking to hang out. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I eventually approached him about it. And he's like, oh, no, no, no. And I'm just like, but I read it, and like you wrote it. Like if like it's not a joke, so it's interesting. So and then in my mind, I'm like, so you're entertaining, and all of your exes are entertaining you. So this is just a thing I learned, supply. And then he hoovers them back in somehow, and like with the tension or whatever. And again, if people don't do their inner work, they're still going to be entertaining this, So it's interesting. I did reach out, and as a more just of be careful, and then that was it.
Yeah. So let's get back now to the
Yeah.
event in March. And
Mhm.
unless there's anything you want to fill in the gaps between, the repeated cycle and March of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, up until, March, of the relationship was about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Up until March, it was more of the same. And you can read the book, not to plug the book, but like
No,
if you read
plug it
it,
away. Yeah.
yeah, it really does give you insight into, tactics and like what it looks like in real life. Because when I was out of this, I was trying to find a book that made sense, because doctors write books and they're great.
Yeah.
But they're very clinical at
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
repetitious, and how I say it, like you'll be able to look at it and go, oh, that's what that is. And I've had women write to me, and with understanding and saying, you said what I was feeling. So to put it short, it was more of the same in different tactics and more aggressive. I will say this: if you get in a car with someone and they drive erratic and hit the wheel and do crazy things, you're in an abusive relationship and you need to get out now, because that is crazy and that is not okay. So leading up into that point, so that New Year's Eve, by, of course, get into a fight. I'm crying. I want to end the relationship, but like there's something that I can't understand of why I can't end it. And we would break up. We broke up that day. And then that night we're at a party, like the breakup never happened. And again, I've learned all of this is trauma bonding
And
and
is he still living
discarding.
with you throughout this period?
Yeah. Yep. 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 And so I just was like getting to the end of it where I'm like, I'm just like, this isn't my life and I want to be free. I just kept thinking in my mind, I want to be free. Like this doesn't feel free. I feel like a shell of myself. Like I'm always watching what I say, how I say it, who I say it to, their reaction to me, because any little thing he's going to use against me and it's going to be a fight. Because at his dad's house, he would do that. We'd hang out there. It got to the point where I would say very little and do nothing. And then we get in the car and he'd be like, you were out of line. And I'm like, I literally actually didn't speak because I knew this was going to happen. And the one thing I said was nothing. He's like, what are you guys cooking in the kitchen? I said nothing. And so he took that one word of nothing into it. It was crazy. It was literally crazy. And I just kept thinking like, I gotta get out of this. So in March, we went to dinner with his one daughter, and something just felt so off that entire evening. We're walking to the restaurant. I'm very unsettled. We get to the restaurant. His daughter senses it. He gets aggressive because one of our mutual friends, but really they're my friends, had texted that someone's significant other got hurt. I immediately text that person because, again, they're my friend, saying, is everything okay? Flips. Don't you text someone when they text me? How dare you? And loud, where everyone in the restaurant turns and everyone, and then the couple next to us starts arguing. So I'm like, energy is just all over. So we wrap up dinner. We're leaving the restaurant. I see a friend's Significant other at the bar, I say hi, we leave. That annoys him. Like, why do you have to say hi to everyone? I don't have to say hi to everyone, but when I see a friend in a neighborhood in which I live, I will speak. Like, I don't know. I think that's normal. That's fair. So his daughter gets in an Uber. We're walking home. He's like talking, but walking fast. I can't keep up. I'm thinking in my mind, like, we're going to get into an argument. And I think this will probably like be the final argument because there's just something like I could feel something was wrong. So we get to like 2 blocks away from home, and then he starts, like, rambling on about one of his other exes, and I'm like, "Mhm, mhm," 'cause, like, I don't care. Like, I've heard this story 15 times, and literally, I don't care. My plan was to get in the shower, we were watching Riverdale on Netflix, and to go to bed and, like, figure this out in the morning because I was like, I can't do this anymore." So, we get in the house, I get in the shower, he's watching Riverdale, and I'm like, "Hopefully, the energy will have, like, dissipated by the time I get out the shower." I get out the shower, I change, I go in the living room. The energy has not dissipated. If anything, he's, like, simmering, and I'm like, "If you just sit here and say nothing, you'll be like, we can just go to bed." One of my friends was on a business trip, the friend that was dating or in a relationship with the person I saw leaving, and I said, "Oh, so and so is back from Singapore." Explodes. "You only care about other people, you only care about what people are doing." I said, "Enough. I've had enough. It's over. I'm done." He stands up, I stand up. He pushes me, I push him back, and then it starts. He grabs me by my neck and body slams me on the floor and starts choking me. And I'm fully present at this moment and just thinking, what the F is going on? Like, this is crazy. And not that anything around anyone's neck would be appropriate. Not like a like whatever, but like a like strong enough where I can't breathe, I can't talk, and like he's like all over me, strangling me. And he eventually gets up and I actually could not speak. I couldn't use like my voice for it was like 2 to 3 weeks where like I couldn't phonate at certain pitches and then like speaking these words would like sound would not come out. And I stood up and I swung at him because like that's literally just all that happened. I told the police all this, so none of this is, whatever. And I connected one and we both were shocked. And then he just started wailing on me to the point where I'm on the floor trying to like defend myself. And he's just at one point just wailing, 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 wailing at my head. And eventually I thought I said in my head, "Please stop, enough," but it was outside, like aloud. And he stopped. And all he could say was the F word over and over and over and over again, because I don't know if I can curse on here. And I like run to the bathroom and look in the mirror and I am like, this is really, really, really bad. My face is swelling, my eye has blood in it, and I'm slowly like not being able to see. And I just am beside myself. And I go grab ice, and he's sitting there and he looks at me and goes, "Look at what you did." And that's when I knew if everything else wasn't, I was like, this situation is fucked. Like, and I said, "I don't know what's happening right now, but you did this. Your hands did this to me." I grab my phone, then he lunges over me. "What are you doing?" I throw the phone. I said nothing. And I just proceeded to sit there and think in my mind, how do I get out of this? I live in a private home. There's a neighbor on the same floor and a family downstairs. He's capable of anything at this point. He could kill me. He could hurt them. If I call my mom and my mom comes, he could hurt her. I'm like, if the cops come, who like, this could turn into like very bad. So I grab my phone, I go to the bathroom, I take photos because I'm like, I have to document this. I'm not thinking, but I'm thinking enough to know that. I text 2 girlfriends. I said, something bad has happened. I don't want the cops. I just need someone to know. I said, I don't want to do anything. Don't do anything. I have to figure it out. but I needed someone to know that. So if they didn't hear from me in the morning, get help. Um, and I just laid in bed with ice. He was snoring on the couch, not even 12 minutes after this, and then proceeded to come in the bed later that night and sleep next to me. I did not sleep. I couldn't see out of my eye and I kept icing it. I had a panic attack at like 2 in the morning where I had to leave and go on the couch and be like, you're going to be okay. And part of me, now is like, why didn't I run? Why didn't I get help? And people have asked me that. And I said, in that moment, I was scared. I couldn't see. I'm like, what am I going to do? Run where? Run to who? I just didn't know. I just knew that I had to get him out and I had to get to safety. So he woke up at like 5 a.m. for work. Again, I did not sleep at all and said not a word, flicked on the light, looked at my neck and looked at my eye, shook his head and like left for work. I shook the entire night. And then when he left, I called my one friend who works for a hospital. I said, I need to see an eye specialist immediately. I don't want to get into details. I said, I'll share details with you later, but I need your help. I'm blind right now in this one eye. I need to figure it out. And I'm in my mind freaking out of like my life. If I'm blind, can I work? I can't type. Everything is like overwhelming. I get into a doctor's appointment. I Uber there. It's like a movie, right? I'm in oversized sunglasses. I'm in sweats. I'm clearly shaking. The people there 100% knew. I get into the exam room and the doctor looks at me and she goes, did someone that you love do this to you? And I said, no. Because in my mind, they're going to hold me there. They're going to call the cops and I'm going to be forced into a decision that I'm not yet ready to make, even though it's clear on the decision, and I said, no, I said, I went to boxing last night and then this happened. And she said again, and I said, again, it was boxing. I just want help. And she goes to administer the eye drops and I freak out. So if it wasn't clear on what happened to me, that would have made it clear. So longer story short, I got my eyesight back. She says that it was most likely the swelling pressing down. But I had to go see a retina specialist in the city for the next several months to make sure because there was a spot in my eye that kept glitching. Every time I got slightly stressed or I guess my blood pressure went up, I couldn't see. So that has gotten better over time. And I'll have my final appointment with her a year, a date, a year to the day next month. But it's crazy. And he continued to live with me for 6 days after that, acting as if nothing happened.
How can you walk us through those 6 days?
Yeah. So I got back from the eye doctor. Where were you? Why did you go there? Seems like a waste of time and money. And I'm like, look at my face. And I was blind. I only recently am regaining my eyesight. And I have to go back in a week. And he goes, she just wants your money. You don't need to go back. And then is like, let's go get dinner. And I'm like, he's like, let's go. So we're in the car driving. He's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. It's this eye, my left eye. And he's talking with his hand like this, close and like this close to my face. So I'm like, he's intimidating me now. Got it. I'm like, just keep forward, say nothing. We get to the parking lot of the place and he goes, okay. And I'm like, you're not going to go get the food that you ordered? I'm not going in. So I go in and it's like, you want me to go in like with my face like this? Crazy. I go in, the woman looks at me, I look at her, there's a guy there, he looks at me, and I'm like, again, I have a moment to say something. But I'm like, these people had to do these, they had nothing to do with this. So if I say something, I'm now putting them in danger. So I collect the food, get back in the car, go eat, and I basically am just quiet. I say nothing, and he clearly is happy he won. So I'm just thinking, Like, it's hard for me to sleep. It's hard for me to eat. Like, I'm avoiding my mom's phone calls. I'm avoiding everyone's phone calls. I'm thinking, how can I move in the world? Because I can't hide this, right? It's not like he grabbed my arm and there's a bruise. There's blood in my, like, I look horrible, you know? And it only gets worse, you know, as bruising heals, it somehow is worse. And I'm just freaking out in my head. We get to Monday. I go to the precinct to get information because what I needed was to talk it out. I'm a very measured person in the sense of I need to understand all of the implications and process of everything before I can make a decision. Period. Needless to say, it wasn't a very fruitful visit. The officer, when I walked in, was dealing with someone else who was not helpful. They were very like clearly there to like make the officer's day miserable. And what I should have said was, take a minute and then come talk to me. And I didn't. And then they kind of were like, well, if they hit you, we're just going to arrest them. And that's that. And I was like, this is not what I need. So I left. And the thing that disturbed me was no one asked, are there children at home? No one asked, are you like, it was just like an outburst. And then I left and I'm like, this is crazy. So I was just confused. I reached out to my network and I got some answers. And I said, all right, I have to get him out of the house before I can make a choice about anything. So I called a locksmith and I had the locks changed. My friend and her husband came to my house. They helped me pack his things and we wrote a script. They said, when he's getting off from work, you're going to call him and you're going to read the script. And this is so March 3rd happened, and March 3rd, I think, was a Thursday. So this is happening on the Wednesday after.
Is the script in the book?
Yeah. I everything is in the book.
Okay.
And I said, you know, the locks have been changed. Melanie and Darren are here to help. You have to come and get your things and leave. He lost it, obviously. What's gotten into you? You know, nothing happened. You know, all of these things. Can we just talk? And it was like a movie. And my friends were there listening. It went from something's wrong with you to like, you're a crazy bitch, you know, and raging, you know, how dare you? They better not touch my stuff. And he apparently called several people in his family to come help him. And they're like, no, we're not getting involved in that. And then he eventually goes to his father's house and his dad says, well, we can't come because we're about to have dinner. And I went, cool. So at this time, my sister finally comes, who has no idea. She's thinking I'm going to tell her I'm pregnant until I open. I don't know why she thought that, actually. And I opened because I text her. I said, can you come over right now? Which I never do. She comes, you know, she's looking and then she sees my face and she goes, what is going on? So I tell her everything. She's shaking. She wants to just throw all of his stuff out of the window. And I said, legally, we cannot do that. And I just want to handle this legally and with grace and whatever. Like, we cannot damage his things. You know, he's refusing to get them. So she's texting my mom and my mom calls me and she goes, what's going on? I tell her everything. And she says, I'll call you back. And then she calls me back and says, he'll be here with his father at 8 to collect his things. I don't know what she said to him.
The power of a mother.
Right?
The power of a mother, the power of a single mother too, while she's at it. Oh,
right.
wow.
100%, like literally. And he does come a little bit after 8. I guess that's a power play thing, and collects his things. Charges the stairs at my mom and says, don't you want to know my side? And my mom goes, no, I don't. I saw my daughter's face and men don't hit women. Get your stuff and go. And he does. And he's like, well, what about my TV? Because it's mounted on the wall. And she says, we will hire a professional and they will dismount it. And you can schedule a time to get it in the next 2 days from me. You are not to contact her ever again. And he gets his things and puts his things in his car. And his dad doesn't get out. And then they leave. And and my mom stayed with me that night. And it was the first night in a long time that I could just sleep and I could feel my body relax. I woke up at like 2 a.m. with a panic attack, which that I talk about in the book happened for a while. Um, but then I could finally like have space. And I woke up that morning with the thing in my head, he's hunting again. And I was like, if I say nothing, it gives him the permission and the space to do this to someone else. And if he could have taken my life or maimed me for life. And I said, I have a responsibility to the people after me, whether I know them or not. Like that, and I felt like that was my grandfather in me going, like, something that, could seriously hurt someone. So it's your duty to tell, you know. So that's when I made the decision to file the police report and they came. They took everything down. I said to the officer, I said, after he strangled me, I hit him. He's like, that's self-defense. You're fine. And I said, because if I have to answer for that, I'll answer for it. Like I am always, if I did something wrong, fine. That's fine. And so they left. And when I found out the strangulation was a felony, I freaked out a little bit. And I was like, thinking like, what about his life, his daughters, his job? And then I was like, wait, none of these thoughts are about you. How crazy is that? That I'm going through all this, but still so concerned about him, which is crazy. And also goes to show you the psychology of like all of this, right? Like chipping away at someone so much that in the end, when they should be raving mad, still are like being like, oh, yeah, but if I do this, then that's going to hurt them. And then now it's like, screw that. Like you need to be held accountable. And I've learned that he has DV in his history and other people who didn't come forward that I know. But and I'm like, no, you have to be held responsible for your actions for once, and all.
Can I
And
ask you really quick?
yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest things to understand and to digest and to process. And yeah, like you are looking at his daughter and you are thinking,
Yeah.
if you were to go to the fullest extent of the law, like she's
Right.
going to be fatherless essentially.
Right.
Can you Yeah, and it's funny, like the chapter that I had open is letter to survivors. And this is what I
Yeah.
wanted to read a section of at some
Yeah.
point before we close
Yeah.
out. But can you like speak to the person out there who's probably really tuned in at this point of the show, who might be going through something similar, and
Mhm.
kind of walk them through how to think through that? Yeah, you are maybe a little bit thinking about him,
Mhm.
but at the same time,
Mhm.
now there's someone else. There's a
Right.
daughter there too.
It was probably the first time in my life where I had to put myself above everyone because there's no other way. Because otherwise, why am I here? And this person, if I say nothing, can very well come back at me. So as much as that hurts, I just felt like, you know, she'll be fine no matter where her dad is. Um, and it was more important to me for him to be held accountable for his actions against me and to protect the people after me because I was not the first. So, therefore, if I'm quiet like everyone else has been quiet, there'll be others. But hopefully, by me bearing all of this, it's humiliating, it can be shameful, but it's also freeing. There's nothing that anyone can say to me that's gonna hurt my feelings or go, "Oh my god, how could you?" I could easily be anyone watching or listening to this, easily. People that are good at this, they are predators. They can get you no matter how solid you truly think that you are. And by me bringing this, I hope that me sharing my story, I help people get out before they end up like me or worse. That night I play over in my head could have gone so differently to where I would not be sitting here. And I often refer to life as timelines. There's several timelines, that could have played out that night. And I'm thankful that this was the one that I got. Um, and I'm determined for other people to like break their loop and get out. And if you're worried about what people are going to say or think, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, I believe you, I see you. Now you have to get out. You have to get out. Like, it's not going anywhere good. It's just not.
Hey all, it's me, Bishoy. As a marathon runner and endurance athlete, I've come to understand the importance of properly fueling your body for preparation and recovery. Every day, you get a shot at success. How you start your day typically paints a picture of what the rest of the day will look like. Start your day with a super convenient, healthy, and delicious nutritional win. Meal 1 by Creatures of Habit. Overnight oatmeal packed with 30 grams of plant-based protein, chia, flax, and pumpkin seeds. Vitamin D3, omega-3s, a probiotic, and digestive enzymes made in under 1 minute. Stop wasting time or worrying about what to eat as your first meal of the day. Start with meal 1. Visit creaturesofhabit.com, creatures spelled with a K, and use code MILE40 for 15% off a one-time purchase or the first subscription order payment. I got to give that a moment to sink in for so many reasons. I mean, I have the utmost respect for you, Kia, and I really think that what you're doing is just so brave. And as you were going through it, you were brave, you were present, you were conscious of what you deserved, and everything that you were going through, as a human, that you didn't deserve any of it, that's for sure. No one deserves it. um uh, and this, like, I struggle with this a little bit because no one deserves this, right? Like, like, this is controllable. This is not like this is not like having cancer. And I don't want to now talk about myself, but like having cancer and talking about your journey after cancer, that was something that was, no one can control that, And so you shouldn't, as much as I appreciate you having this platform should never exist. And that's what troubles me. Like this platform should never need to exist. But I am grateful that there are people like you who bring it to life. And, I want to read this little segment here from the letter to survivors. You want to give us some context about this portion of the book? Because it says here, you just put down your pen from writing about raw and challenging episodes of domestic violence. And, as you probably talk about right now, but was there a thought to this letter as you wrote it?
Yeah, I believe it comes after, the chapter where I talk about all of the drama or the incident, and in phases of writing the book, I was like, a friend had said, "You should have trigger warnings because, just because you're able to handle your trauma in such a way doesn't necessarily mean other people are, and there should be a warning." So I started with the trigger warnings, and then I thought, maybe there's a letter that I can write to someone after they've read the incident, right? Because they could be a trigger that can spiral someone into something, and people think that they've processed things, or some people don't. They stuff it and they don't want to think about it, because there's a few women that I've given this to that are domestic violence survivors. And some said, I don't know that I can read it. And others said, I read it and it was hard, but it forces me to do the work and to start to heal that. So the thought behind the letter was to comfort them and for them to be seen and to thank them for reading that far, because maybe that's as far as they get, I don't know. But it was important for me in writing this book that people feel seen and validated, because some people, I have spoken to people who I'm the only one that knows the path that they walked. So, and I'm sure there'll be many people that I don't get to speak to. So that's kind of there for them to feel, seen.
You're right. Reading about domestic violence can stir a storm inside. It's okay to feel, to hurt, to seek shelter until it passes. Lean on your loved ones. Reach out when you need to. Breathe, cry, and remember that healing is a journey, not a destination. Your experience might have marked chapters in your story, but they don't define the entirety of your book. The courage with which you face each day, the hope you carry, the love you give, that's the real essence of you. With every dawn, there's an opportunity for a new beginning, and you, my friend, deserve the most beautiful ones. Please cherish yourself, laugh often, love deeply, and never forget your immense worth. Every scar you carry is a testament to battles faced and battles won. Keep shining, for your light guides many, perhaps more than you'll ever know. Remember, you're part of a vast tapestry of souls that stand with you. For you, you are truly cherished, and I believe in the brilliant future that awaits you. Very, very powerful. I mean, and you know that, and I know that, and the listeners know that. Um, I want to ask, what would you tell someone who is on the listening side of this, right? Like, think about the person that you had to text those pictures to when you were in the bathroom. I have no doubt those were individuals that were very carefully selected. And, the first people that you had to tell about, once you got through that evening. Can you give some guidance out there? Because not all listeners perhaps have experienced this, but they
Mhm.
might come across a friend who is confiding in them and may not know how to handle, that kind of story being unleashed on them.
First and foremost, it's holding space for them, not telling them what they should do or how they should feel, and most certainly not, "Well, how could you let this happen?" or anything like that. It's really being quiet and asking them what they need in that moment, right? Because some people's first instinct is to come in storming like the US Marines, and maybe that's not what that person needs. It may be exactly what they need, but it's not where they're mentally able to handle all of that, cuz when these things happen, it's most likely something you never thought was going to happen to you, and you're trying to figure it out. And there's a lot going on, especially when it's someone that you think loves you and cares about you. And so the best thing you can do is hold space and ask them for what they need and not press them too much, these girlfriends every day texted me, "Get out, call the police, get out, call the police." And I kept saying, "I'm not ready. I have to figure it out. I have to do it my way because I don't want to do something that gets this individual more angry or cause to be able to stay and wreak havoc longer. So the most important thing is to hold space and to not victim blame. As easily as it was them, it could be you, no matter how strong and smart you think you are. Most people are quiet about it because they're ashamed. But you'd be surprised of how many people have gone through this. So holding space and being there for them the way that they need you, which will change, right? Over that time.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
My last kind of question was around things out here is, um, you putting pen to paper had to have been extremely cathartic, on the back of something extremely traumatizing. But it also now kind of opens the door for you to a, you know, put this behind you in some sense. I don't think it will ever be fully, not part of you. But in some sense, there's something freeing about that, right? Like putting it out into the world, leaving, nothing behind. You've got nothing to hide. You're walking around as your true, authentic self nowadays. And, um, in a way, I don't like to use the word brand, and I don't want to brand you as a survivor of
Right.
domestic abuse, but
Yeah,
you
thanks.
are, you are a walking role model of someone who faced some, horrible trauma head on, came out on the other side, and is now trying to, protect those around her from going through something similar. Can you speak to what you envision this experience, or how you envision this experience playing a role for you, going forward? Whether it's, you want to work with other individuals, over, the course of your lifetime who are perhaps going through something similar, or whether, the book inspired you to maybe, do something else with your platform.
Sure. Yeah, so writing it was very cathartic. It helped me process a lot and possibly process things a lot faster had I not written it. My This is just the beginning. The book is merely just a stepping stone. Ultimately, what I envision is a foundation called Lighthouse where women can come for resources. What I found upsetting in this process was how much there really isn't any real support for women and men, because it can happen to men, and it does happen to men, going through these things. The only thing I could find was people giving me numbers to shelters. And I said, well, I don't need a shelter. I need answers to certain questions. I need to understand the legal process, which court do I, like all of those things. And it was frustrating that I could call number after number of these places that advertised to be able to help me, but could only offer me a number to a shelter system. So, what I want to create is something, a foundation where a woman can call and say exactly what she needs, and we figure it out and we get it done. Maybe that comes from me being a personal assistant where I have a problem and I figure out and I get it done. But I feel like anyone in this situation deserves that. And that's what I'm going to be working on 100%.
Absolutely. And again, I wish you didn't have to be here, right? But
Right.
I think there's an entire community of people who are going to be extremely grateful for the work that you are doing. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your courage, your strength, your um, reflections, and your vulnerability, not just with me, but with the entire community of people that you're now serving. And so, it's really hard to end an episode like this. And I'm sure if you're a listener now, you're looking at the clock and you're like, man, this episode is long. But there's a reason why this episode was long.
Yeah.
It deserves every single minute and it could keep on going. So thank you, Kia. Thank you for joining me
Thank you.
today. It was a pleasure
Thank
having
you
you
so
on.
much. Thank you so much for sharing your platform.
You got it.